Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into yet another edition of Cory Comments On. I am your host, Cory McKnight. You can join me every Friday at 6 p.m. right here on All WNY Radio for the show, and I'm super glad you're here with me tonight. I appreciate it a ton. It feels good to have an audience. Thank you guys for listening. It is Friday, December 7th, 2018, and if you don't know what December 7th is, it is a date that will live in infamy. Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day here in the United States. A day to remember all the ones we lost or that served in the attacks on Pearl Harbor in 1941 by the Japanese in Hawaii. Hopefully you know the story by now because it's a sad one. I don't want to retell it. It's been a pretty patriotic week here. Speaking of, in the U.S., we've had the death of George H.W. Bush. Mr. Herbert Walker himself passed away, and it's been a whole, basically, week of remembrance for him. So, Pearl Harbor Day fell on kind of a good time because it's been like a national week of reflection, basically, and remembering those that served and George and all that good stuff. But on a little lighter note, it's also Cotton Candy Day. So not everything is sad. You can get some cotton candy while you remember Pearl Harbor and George H.W., I guess. But anyway, we got like 2 weeks of stuff to cover here, and it's been busy in the news here, especially in Rochester. And it hasn't been for a good reason whatsoever. We were nationally recognized a couple of times within 1 week because of Amber Alerts for underage girls being abducted, kidnapped, taken out of state in both occasions that happened only a few days apart from each other. And that's just wild. I wanted to talk about it because to my memory, since they've had the Amber Alert system, I don't remember two of them happening just a few days apart in the same city, same type of circumstances, a girl that's around the same age. It was just, it was crazy. So Rochester, we got to get our act together, but I want to explain a little bit about what happened in each one here. The first one happened last Thursday. A girl named Camry Elliott, taken around 8 a.m. from West Bergen Road in Byron, Genesee County, and that was from her school, apparently. A man who was much older, 22, picked her up, and she voluntarily got into his van, and they drove off and actually headed towards Pennsylvania. This 22-year-old guy, I'm not even going to say his name, apparently had some kind of relationship with this girl, whether it doesn't matter. It's the fact of the matter is that there's a relationship between a 22-year-old and a 14-year-old, regardless of the circumstances. And she willingly got into his car after school one day and fled the state and was, I guess, with it. I don't think it was against her will, necessarily. It could have been. The investigation's still ongoing here. It could have been. But eventually they were tracked down in Pennsylvania, brought back to Rochester, and that guy's definitely going to be facing some serious charges. I believe he was already a registered sex offender, if I'm not mistaken, in that case. And that was pretty shocking. We had quite a few people that were really trying to spread the word about this girl that had been abducted, this Amber Alert, because it seemed like such a serious situation, and probably was. And then it kind of came to find out that she willingly went with this guy to Pennsylvania, which just kind of, I don't know, it blows my mind. It wasn't really like a kidnapping, per se. So we get over that one, right? The girl was returned safe. Absolutely nothing's wrong with her. Hopefully this guy gets thrown away for a long time. And move on, right? Not exactly. Just a couple of days later, a few days later, yet another Amber Alert for another girl, 14 years old, who left with someone from the city of Rochester to flee the state, to flee the city anyway. They went to New York City, so not the state, but to flee the area, and they had some kind of relationship too. Unreal. I don't know. I'll wrap it up and I'll give my opinions on everything here, but just to let you know about this second case, it was a 41-year-old this time who abducted, allegedly, a 14-year-old. I don't know if it was willingly or not. There's no details like there was in the first case that she got into his car. Not sure what happened, but he was already facing other charges for sexual abuse with children, of course. Whether or not he was a registered sex offender, I'm not sure. But the guy's a fucking lowlife, of course, already. And had some kind of relationship with a 14-year-old girl in the neighborhood, just a few houses down from him, or about around the corner or so. And they were seen by neighbors holding hands and walking as though that was his girlfriend or whatever. And she's 14 years old, and he's 41. Shit's crazy. They fled to Brooklyn, and that one also seemed exactly like the first case, where this girl had a relationship with this guy and left with him, apparently on her own volition, or whatever you want to put it. And they went to Brooklyn, and she was fine when they finally arrested him, thank God, a few days later. She was fine. The first girl was fine as well. There was no, they weren't murdered or anything. It could be a really bad situation when you hear about like kidnappings and Amber Alerts where time is of the essence. Like there could be imminent danger to this person. And in both of these cases, it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit well with me. I think these girls, for some reason, are willingly leaving with older men and carrying on relationships with older men and don't realize the dangers. And I don't know. It blows my mind. It's just crazy. Well, first of all, forget the girls, because they're minors. Things don't always go smoothly with teenagers. I think any parent would probably attest to that. They get some crazy ideas, they rebel, but this to me is beyond that. These guys are, the guy that's 41, of course, that's outrageous. The age gap between him and a 14-year-old girl, the intellectual life experience gap between the two of them is massive. I don't know how they could even carry on a conversation, really, much less have like a romantic relationship like it's being reported. But what's wrong with these guys? How do they resort to such shitty behavior? To be hitting on or dating or leaving the state with girls that are much younger than them, obviously minors, obviously impressionable, vulnerable, maybe not in a great situation. What's wrong with these guys? But why aren't the girls resisting too, though? That's the other thing, because we know, I'm not even going to mention the names of the two guys that did this shit because they're lowlifes, but those two guys are lowlifes. We know that, and hopefully they're going to be in jail for a long time for what they've done here, and I think that will be the case. But the girls, why aren't they resisting these advances from much older men like this, much less leaving the state or being in a relationship with them? I don't understand. Is it a parenting issue? They interviewed both mothers on the local news, and they both had the same kind of, outlook on the situation, where they're a victim, their daughter is a victim, and their daughter would never do anything wrong ever in the entire world. She's an angel. Let's get this guy, just bring her home. Yes, definitely. As a parent, they were probably going through a nightmare trying to get these girls back into Rochester. And I don't want to diminish how upset they were at all. But to me, the root of the problem may lie in the parenting skills of these people who are raising young girls who don't know basic right from wrong, really. How do they not understand how not only illegal, but just how morally heavy it is to carry on a relationship with somebody who is maybe even triple your age, in the case of the 14-year-old, or the 41-year-old, rather. But I don't know. What do you think? Is the parenting issue? Is it on the generation? Is it just the kids these days, the millennials or whatever, that are just acting wild and it's just going to be this way? Why do these guys get into this shit? What is going on with all this? I want to know what your opinion is on the matter. And I also want you to join me next Friday for Cory Comments On, and we'll probably have some lighter subject matter. But this week, that was really bothering me. I really wanted to get that off my chest, that I can't believe that kind of stuff is going on in my city. It sucks. I've lived here a long time, 30 years. You don't want to see this shit going on in Rochester. So anyways, please do join me next Friday for Cory Comments On. We'll talk about the Sabres or something, or the Bills. Hopefully they win tonight. The Sabres' 10-game winning streak while I was gone there, and it finally ended, and they're on, I believe, a 3-game skid now. So let's go tonight, boys. And the Bills, too. They've won a couple games, but they're not looking great. So, anyways, join me next Friday, 6 p.m. Cory Comments On. You know where to find me, allwnyradio.com. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Everybody stay warm, stay safe. I really appreciate you joining me. Have a good one. Peace.